This is Ira Gorlick, and this next series of lectures on information and knowledge are, in my opinion, the most interesting, the most fun. It's the one I like the most, so I hope you enjoy these series of lectures. They're critical to understanding free markets and economics. So the question is, why does discussion of information belong here at this point? And I wrestled a lot with where I was going to put this series of lectures. I hope this is the best place. If you have a comment, please let me know if you think it should be someplace else. And the answer is because commerce moves on an ocean of information. And as I said in my lecture on learning, one needs to know the natural laws that govern a thing in order to learn that thing. Since commerce is built on a foundation of information, before we get into a lot of the discussion of commerce, I think it's important for us to understand what is that information. If commerce moves on an ocean of information, what is information? So it's interesting to note that it appears that the inclusion of information in a discussion of economics is a relatively recent thing. And I think this is important, and we need to probably talk more about it. I think it has a lot to do with the domestication of the electron and the printing press, and so we can talk more about it, but for another lecture. So what is information and knowledge? I have some sort of high-level quotes here. Information is the reduction of uncertainty, and I'm going to talk a little about that when I talk about Shannon Weaver. If I know it's raining and you tell me it's raining, then that's not information. I already know it's raining. This is important. Information is measured by what it does, not by what it is. This is absolutely critical because how many times have you had to produce a report that no one reads? Information is not the same as knowledge because knowledge is the application of information. Information are bits of stuff. Knowledge is what we do when we apply that information. And finally, wisdom is the application of the right knowledge. The most important person that you need to study if you're going to study information is Claude Shannon. He wrote a book with Shannon and Weaver. In fact, let me hold up the book here. It was written in 1949. He came up with 3 levels of information: how accurate it is, the technical piece; how meaningful it is, the semantic piece; and how effective it is. And I'm going to go over in my whole series of lectures on communication and information, I'm going to go into a lot of detail in this. For this class and this lecture, I'm going to leave it at this high level. He also introduced the concept of noise. And that's a very important thing to understand, and hopefully in some other lectures I'll be able to go more in detail on that. And finally, he coined the term bits from binary digit. Here are some of the quotes. Information relates not so much to what you do say as to what you could say, and that's absolutely critical. I like this one. The concept of information applies not to the individual messages as the concept of meaning would, but rather to the situation as a whole. So remember, I keep talking about context and situation and relative and dynamic. When we talk about information, information is not absolute. A piece of information is going to depend greatly on its overall situation that it's applied. Another key player in this is F.A. Hayek, and I'm going to go a lot into F.A. Hayek. He's an Austrian that lived at the same time as Shannon and Weaver, which I think is relevant, though I'm just going to have to do some more research to figure out why it might be relevant. He wrote about how information works in the community from an economic standpoint. He was strongly anti-socialist and anti-central planning. When we talk about libertarians, if you go to the Cato Institute or the Mises Institute, you'll see F.A. Hayek as being one of the founders of the free market libertarian small government idea factories. Mises Institute describes Hayek undoubtedly the most eminent of the modern Austrian economists and a founding board member of the Mises Institute. He's a foremost representative of outstanding generation of Austrian school theorists. Hayek was more successful than anyone else in spreading Austrian ideas throughout the English-speaking world. So this is how the Mises Institute, the right-wing free market libertarian institute, describes Hayek. He won the 1974 Nobel Prize in Economics with Gunnar Myrdal, I guess it is, for their pioneering work in the theory of money and economic fluctuations, and for their penetrating analysis of the interdependence of economic, social, and institutional phenomena. Among the major economists, he is mainly known for his popular The Road to Serfdom in 1944, which Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, interestingly enough, based much of their economic political views on. This is a list of some of his famous papers. I'm going to use the first one, The Use of Knowledge of Society, a lot in this class. But I would recommend Why I'm Not a Conservative. That's a great paper. If you are a conservative, you might want to read it. If you're not a conservative, you might want to read it and find it interesting. Given that this is a free market thinker, he provides a very interesting perspective on why he's not a conservative. This discussion I'm going to have on information comes mostly from his essay, The Use of Knowledge in Society, we wrote it in 1945. And I would recommend that. I have it on the website for reference. You can go and Google it. It's not a very long essay, and I really recommend it. It's absolutely great and has been very influential in my life in terms of structuring my economic thinking. He said a centrally planned market could never match the efficiency of an open market because any individual knows only a small fraction of all which is known collectively. I just think this is brilliant, and you're going to see me reference this a lot from now on. He also talked about an interesting concept called individual equilibrium, the divide between information which is useful and practical versus that which is not. In some of my other writings, I talk about the information sweet spot as the example of this, and hopefully I'll have a lot of time to go into more detail. It's fascinating. Some of the quotes from Hayek that I like: the market process is motivated by the efforts of actors to improve their own well-being. I like that. The market process is motivated by the efforts of actors to improve their own well-being. The consequence of market action is a continual increase in useful knowledge brought about as successful solutions to economic problems. This is actually really important, and I hope to go into detail in terms of online learning and this class. I hope that this class is not just a single event, but that every time someone takes this class, we can continually increase the useful knowledge so that this class is can be continuously improved. And this is one of my favorites. Human beings cannot learn to find solutions to problems in a vacuum. They always start from some basic knowledge of time and place, which in large part consists of knowledge of the local institutional structure. This knowledge is necessary to a reasonable assessment of the consequences of this action, which is why I did reasonable or rational theory before this, because we're talking about rational assessment here and needing information to make rational assessments. In the next lecture, I'm going to talk about information transparency. Remember that I mentioned that for net neutrality, I am a big fan of transparency, so this next lecture will be critical for net neutrality. Thank you.